right? Isn't this awesome? Yes, Jersey Shore. Give yourselves a hand. This is great. I love the energy here. I love, like Ralph was talking about, I love it when we're together. You know, it's just electric, and I love it. So my name is Amy Spain Duncan. I am an alcoholic. Hi. Thanks. You ever done a pawpaw event? I got asked to speak at a YPI once, and I was like, Amy Spain Duncan, I'm an alcoholic. And they, and I'm like, shut up. What is going on? Oh, my God. They didn't ask me back. But anyway, it was fun. It was fun. It was a fun time. But my sobriety date is March 6th of 2010. I have a sponsor who is sponsored by a woman who is sponsored. I sponsor women who sponsor women who sponsor women. I am a big advocate and proponent of for sponsorship. I'm an idiot. So it's very important that I have a sponsor, right? And what's worse is, like, in the beginning, you know you're an idiot. You're like, I am so screwed. This is, I don't know what to do. You know, I was driving to cash my check at like I was a year sober before I got a job, but it was my first little job that I'd gotten in sobriety, and my sponsor calls. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm running up here to, Barry's liquor store to cash a check. She's like, what? And I'm like, I'm going to the liquor store to cash my paycheck. And she was like, why are you going to the liquor store to cash your paycheck? And I thought, what a stupid question. It's $1 cheaper than going to Walmart to cash your paycheck. And she's like, no, sweetheart. Why aren't you going to a bank? And I'm like, these AAs, real smart. They are smart people. So I could recognize the need for a sponsor early on, But you stay sober a little while, and let me tell you, you start thinking you're smart again. And we're not. We're not. I'm still operating with a diseased brain. Right? And they told me in the beginning, a sick mind can't fix a sick mind. But I will spend hours up here trying to figure it out. Figure out how to help my son. Figure out how to move my career along. Figure out how to make my husband do what I want, him to do, and it gets painful. I get sick of me and my own voice. And so the only relief I have found for the self-obsession is when I am with you. Because when I'm with you for a brief moment, this shuts up and I can be with you. Right? So being alone, being unsponsored, that's just not going to work for me. I have a home group. I have two home groups. I have Lambton, which has been my home group since I was 2 years sober. Lambton raised me. I am also a big, big pusher for the home group. In Louisville, we say, if you don't have a home group, you're homeless. And so you need a home group and you need a service commitment. And that's a big deal to us, man. And my home group has been around a long time, and they raised me. And I'm like, Ralph, I brought you this real goofy human being, It's like, this is what I got. And one of our home group members, Tony, and I love it because it talks about what Bob was saying, that we got this orb, right? And over the years, we just pick up all this gunk and all this nasty, and then I get to AA with it, and you help me kind of uncover, discover, and discard till I can get to some truth about me. And Tony always says, you bring you, and AA will help you with that. Thank God. So what I brought was insane. I'll try to set the stage for you. This, times 12 with a twitch, all right? So that a lot, I had drank a lot. I'd taken a lot of hits to the head, punches to the face. And don't think I was an abused woman. Everyone was defending themselves. I'm just going to be honest. Just got to be real honest, I'm a rager, right? I'm a rager. Here's for the ragers. Yeah. I get blackout drunk, and I hate me. I hate me. I can't stand me. So I'm going to hit you. Makes me feel better. I don't know why I did. But, so that's my life, and that's who I am, you know? So I was telling somebody earlier, when I got to AA, they were trying to make me feel better, because I get kicked out of places. I don't know about you guys, but I get asked to leave, you know? All the time. Please, ma'am, it's time for you to leave. Lady, you gotta get out of here. Sometimes they escort you, which is nice to have an escort to the door. But they would tell me things. I'm like, you know, I want to know, I need to understand the like, where's the bar? Like, who gets thrown out? Like, what do you gotta do to get thrown out? Because I'm gonna try not to do that. But I'll probably do everything above that, right? And they told me about a guy named Lee from Louisville, Mr. Lee. He's an amazing man, a Vietnam vet, and been sober a long time now, and he's like a hero. Like, everybody loves Mr. Lee, you know? And they said one time, when Mr. Lee was just 5 years sober, he was 5 years sober, he got in a fist fight in an AA meeting. Like, dog walked this guy across the room and up against the wall. So I'm listening, and I'm like, really? What happened? What happened to Lee? You know, was he put on probation? Was there punishment? Did they hold court? Like, where's the AA police? What's this look like? They're like, no, he's fine. He's sober. He's been sober 30 years now. I'm like, thank God. All right, note to self, right? Because that's the kind of thing I might do. That's the kind of thing I might do. And you love me anyway. You love me anyway for the love of Alcoholics Anonymous. We were talking earlier about my heroes. We stand on the shoulders of giants. We stand on the shoulders of giants. And when this skinny, and I'll just clarify real quick too. See, I'm a low bottom drunk, right? That passage they read about pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. I go to big book studies and people raise their hands for definitions. I never had to ask you what that meant. I didn't have to ask you what that meant. Right? And so when this crazy, twitching old hooker from Kentucky shows up in Alcoholics Anonymous, kind, wonderful men like Tim Hyland and Don Majors and Mo took an interest in a wretch like me. Wow. Who does that? Who does this? Right? I show up to AA like I show up everywhere, half dressed. The women of Alcoholics Anonymous were so kind to me. I love old AA. If you get a chance to get around old AA, I call them ninjas, right? Because they allow you your dignity. They didn't say, hey, hooker, get dressed. Nah, they're kinder. They're smoother, right? A lady brought me a bag of clothes down to the ice house, and she simply said, hey, Amy, I was cleaning out my closet, and some of these things don't fit me anymore, and I know you like to go to a lot of meetings, and I know you like to look nice, and so I'm going to just give you these if anything will fit. And I was like, oh, Newell gave me clothes, you know. And suddenly I showed up dressed for the meeting. Right? But they allowed me my dignity. They allowed me my dignity. My girlfriend Chaslas, when I tell this story, and this is just speaking to my state of mind, okay? And the love of AA and the fellowship and those ninjas, man. My first sponsor, a lady named Beth Montgomery. I'm crazy, right? This is me all the time. Can't quit talking. Won't stop drinking coffee. Yeah. And we have a saying in Louisville, you can't go 2 blocks unattended, right? So they give you somebody like you watch her till the next meeting. Shit. I'm exhausted, you know. And Beth had me all that morning, you know. We'd gone to a morning meeting, and I know she needed a break, but we're driving to her house, and we come up to a stoplight, and she says, honey, there has just been something on my mind. And I'm like, what is it? because I just like when people talk to me. She said, I was sitting at this stoplight the other day, and there's some special needs adults that live in my neighborhood, and they work at Kroger, and one of them was trying to cross the street, and the stoplight didn't work. And I was so worried that, what if they get run over? What if they're, I meant to check these stoplights and make sure they were functioning properly, but I haven't had time. Well, hold on. I have time. She says, really? Yeah. What should we do? Now we're a team, me and Beth. What should we do? She said, well, I think that if we just walked up and down, the street, corner to corner, and push the button and just make sure it's changing like it should, and that it turns red when it should, and they say walk when it should. And I was like, okay. Well, what if it doesn't work? She's like, well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to give you my phone, and if it doesn't work, you call 311. That's the city line, and you report the light. And I was like, good idea. I got it. You go home. I'm gonna do this. And she was like, are you sure? Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I'm going to catch up with you. This is what I'm going to do. And, man, I was so serious about that job. I pushed the button. I had 3-1. I'm timing it. People on the street are like, what are you doing? Looking at me weird. I'm like, I got to check the crosswalks. You got to check the crosswalks. So the people got to go to work. You don't want anybody to get run over. Like, somebody's got to check and then I'll call the city, and this is what I'm doing. I'm real serious. And I probably walked 12 city blocks, crossed the street, walked back up 12 city blocks. They all worked. Thankfully, right? It was not till years later that I realized they always worked. What Beth did, she allowed me some dignity, and she made me feel useful once more. A wretch like me who had nothing else to do. I felt so good. I checked all the lights. Proud. Years later, they were fixing one of the lights, and she sent me a picture, and she was like, told you they were broke. So that's who welcomed me into Alcoholics Anonymous. These loving and tolerant and kind and patient ninjas, who didn't shake their head or point their finger or kick me out. Right? It was so different. I'm like, Roger, I'm built for this. I'm all in. I'm 100%. I'm a 1 in 10 girl, So I'm built for this. And like Tom, I love AA. I never not like, I love you guys. You smell good. You're funny. I like coffee. There's usually some food involved. I'm in for all that stuff, right? But mostly, when I got here, I wasn't in trouble. See, I've been in trouble since I was 7 years old. I went to those parochial schools, and guess what? I got the ADHD, right? Sit still. Quit talking. What's wrong with you? Yeah, I had this one babysitter. I've done a fifth. But anyway, she would line up the kids, and the game was who could hold still the longest. Well, why would I even get in line? Like, it's not me, lost every time, right? But kids like me, you went to the principal's office. You had to sit beside the teacher. You had to sit in the back, right? And so all these things, right? Because I don't feel well. I don't feel like I'm like you. I feel like I'm different than you. I feel like you're smarter and you're prettier and you got instructions and I didn't get them. I'm just kind of through life, all right? And now I'm in trouble, and I got to sit up front, and I can't, and you don't, and why, Amy? I love that our book speaks to that, right? It says even when you ask him, he can't come up with a reason. I don't know. I've never known why I do the things I do, and why I can't sit still or quit talking or stop drinking or show up when I'm supposed to. I don't know why when I take a drink, the drink takes me. I don't know why. Right? So, my mom and dad divorced, right? And it's my first Holy Communion. My mom remarried, and she didn't get that annulment. Whereas, right? First Holy Communion. By this time, my dad is one of us, right? My dad's an alcoholic. My dad liked to shoot IV cocaine into his veins and wash it down with a fifth of early times. That was his drink, right, Mo? Early times, right? My dad's one of us. And I haven't seen my dad since maybe twice since the divorce, because alcoholism has my father. But he's going to show up, right? Because it's my first Holy Communion, and my dad's going to show up, and my mom's going to show up. And it's the first time they've been together since, the divorce, and I'm a daddy's girl. And we're going to walk up, and got my white dress and my rosary beads, my little missalette, and we're going to get, I'm going to take my first sacrament, my second sacrament, first Holy Communion, third sacrament. And the priest comes to us as we're in the back of the church, right? We're in line with all the other parents and kids, and I watch him talk to my mom, and I watch my mom's face change. And he walks off, and I said, Mom, what's going on? And she said, honey, I can't receive communion with you. The Catholic Church says that I'm an adulteress because I've remarried. And I was like, well, what about him? Because he's a jerk, right? First time we've seen this guy in years. He cheated on you. He lied to you, and he stole our money. Yeah, he gets to receive communion. More than that, when we walk up there, they want me to cover my chest so everyone will know that I can't receive communion. Ooh-wee. I'm 7 years old, and that anger starts. That rage starts against your religion and your God and your judgment, and that you would do that to my mother. But this cat, he's good enough for you all. You can have him, and I'm going to go with her. All right? So early on, I've got these distorted thoughts and these distorted views, and I'm mad. That's where that rage is coming from. I'm angry, right? And I also have this natural ability for justified anger. Every alcoholic's favorite, right? They had it coming. That was my battle cry. You had it coming. You had it coming, and you should have known better, right? And so I become this bully. I become this rageful woman or child. I become defiant. I become a troublemaker, right? And then finally, and it just felt like finally, somebody put a bottle in my hand. It was magic. I fell in love with alcohol. My friend Carla says it was the longest relationship I was ever in. It fixed it. And now I'm coming to you, and in step one, and you're going to tell me that it's the problem? Wait a minute. Me and this thing, we've been doing this life thing since I was 12 years old, right? It's my solution. It's what makes it okay. It's what quiets the noise. It's what calms the savage beast, right? And just like our book says, just like 30 says, and if you read over to 31, and I think it was mentioned, right, everything but take the trip, that's what I did. And also in that chapter, it tells me by every form of self-deception, I will try to prove myself not the alcoholic, right? And that's what I'm going to do. I'm never going to be like my dad, right? We always have that one parent, not like him. I'm not going to be like him. I'm worse. But I'm never going to be like him, I'm holding my family hostage as an adolescent and as a teenager because the conversations can't be, how was school today? Did you try out for the softball team? How was your test? Da-da-da-da-da. No. The conversations are, where's Amy? Have you heard about Amy? The teacher called about Amy. That boy's mom, a lot of them, sorry moms, if I dated your son or your son was near me, I apologize. That's just a living amends that I'm going to make. Right? And so I'm the focus. And the alcoholic's answer to that, leave me alone. It'll solve all our problems, right? Solve all our problems. Here's the deal. I'm going to do this. You quit worrying. Everything's going to be good. Right? But how do you know, I'm a mom. I'm a mom now. You can't tell a mom not to worry. My poor mother did everything she could to get between me and this oncoming train. This oncoming train, I was laying on the tracks. She did everything right. Right? I'm beyond human aid at 15, 16. That spiritual malady, that blackness of my soul, that justified anger, that resentment, that rage, it's taken hold, and I'm in the grips of it. And the only thing I can do is keep feeding it booze. Just keep feeding it booze. Just keep feeding it booze. And I became the proverbial party girl. I was at every party. I loved every party. I got in a lot of fights at a lot of parties because I also have that rage, right? And I was raised in a little town, and literally there's a sign that says population 85. So they knew me. You know? It's hard to blend in there. My mom sent me to parochial high schools. She thought that would help, all-girl Catholic high school. My mom wanted me to have the education of that. Obviously, she wanted us all to have the best education available, but she also thought like getting me in an all-girl environment would, keep me away from the boys, and maybe I would straighten up and not be as wild. And I got to that school, and they said, we don't drink, and we don't smoke, and we don't kiss boys. And I said, neither do I. That would be silly. That was a lie. I drank, and I smoked, and I kissed all the boys. There wasn't a boy I didn't kiss. And so I'm living that double life at 14, 15 years old. I'm living a double life, right? I'm the chameleon. I want you to like me. I honestly do. That's why I lie to you. That's why I present myself as different than I am, because I'm looking for your acceptance. But when the gig's up and you find out, I never want to be your friend anyway. I flip it off. And I find another. I changed high schools 4 times. We never moved. Right? My stepdad's not in the military. That's not why I'm changing schools. So I went from the all-girl parochial. Well, let me tell you something, ladies. When you sleep with another woman's man, they're very sensitive. It upsets them in a very real and genuine way. And they want to fight you, And I'm like, shit, I'm going to fight her. And I'm like, sweetheart, sister, my friend, you can have him. I don't want him, When I'm drinking, I do these things, right? I just do these things. So I went from the all-girl parochial school to the co-ed parochial school. That was very short-lived. Then I went to a public high school back in Indiana where I lived, and then I ended up graduating from an arts magnet program where I got pregnant on my prom night. And I had my first daughter, Sarah, when I was 19 years old, and she deserved better. I'm 19 years old, and for years, I've been putting something in my body every day to feel different than I do, right? Because I can't exist. I can't exist in my skin. I'm just not comfortable. So I have to put stuff in me every day. I managed to not drink during that pregnancy. My mom did a lot of Sarah's care. Thank God. Thank God for her. I started working at a bar. I think we should all work at bars. I love bars. And I don't like fancy bars. I like bars, I like the smell of cigarettes and blood and piss and I'd like to see a few fights tonight, a couple. If it's a good night, if you're not going, I'll start one, let's just get it going here. And I started dating the bouncer, and he drank like I drank, and we would fight. He would win. I know. But he had that Marine Corps training, so I felt like it was an unfair advantage, but I would get in the ring, I'm like, well, we'll try. And but he usually won. And I got pregnant by him, and he took off, right? And now I'm a single mom with 2 kids, and I have alcoholism. I got that thing Ralph was talking about. I got that thing. People have been talking about my drinking since I was 15. Since I was 15. Amy, man, you were really kind of out of control this weekend. Yeah, because I black out. Was I? But did you die? No, I love that meme. That's me. Like, how bad was it, right? And always that lie that this time will be different, right? So when we're reading in our big book and we're reading about getting to that step 1 work, right? When the pages before 30, and it's talking to us about how we will put our hand on a hot stove and say, this time I won't get burnt. And that's what I was doing. This time I'm not going to ruin this friendship. This time I'm not going to black out. This time I'm not going to get in a fight. This time I'm going to come home when I said I was going to come home. This time I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to make breakfast for those kids, right? See, I would be passed out on the couch and the kids would literally get lunch meat, out of the fridge. And sit in front of turn the TV on themselves. When my daughter was 5 years old, she could get herself up, dressed, and out to the bus stop alone at 5 years old. She wasn't highly independent. She had an alcoholic mom. She'd set her own alarm. She would get herself ready. She'd take herself to the bus. I have grandchildren, and I look at those 5-year-olds, and I look at my oldest daughter, and I'm just like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I wasn't the mother you deserved, And that's a living amends. Right? But I'm already trying to do it. I'm trying to figure out, my dad used to say, I'm trying to figure out how to do the wrong thing the right way. That's what I want to do. I want to do the wrong thing. I don't want no consequences. How can I escape these consequences? I'm not going to drink. How can I not have these consequences when I drink, right? And I don't know about you guys, but I like them, those, and theys are the reasons, right? Because we protect the bottle. One of the biggest things about alcoholism is the denial that it's the alcohol, right? So what's the problem is him, them, those, the kids, the man, the job, the car. Not the booze is the solution. And if you suggest otherwise, well, I'm getting new friends because you're obviously nuts. Right? Some kind of weird fanatic teetotaler wants somebody to quit drinking. Jesus. Absurd. When I was 18 years old, my dad found you. On my 18th birthday, my dad called me, and I told him I would take care of him if he could stay alive a little longer. My dad was dying. He was dying on the streets. And that night after me and Dad hung up, he said he got on his knees and he asked God to help him. And the next morning, he called a friend who took him to fix a sink at a halfway house. And my dad never drank again. He died in 2019 with 30 years of sobriety in this program. Yeah. I'm like you and your friend, I miss him. So, real quick about the bouncer, he took off, and I gotta admit, I was a little sore about it, right? I was a little salty about the whole deal. So, his kid brother I am from Kentucky. I want to tell you, he's not my brother. Yeah. Boys are easy. I'm just saying, boys are easy. It's like just fishing with a lure in a stocked pond. You're like, yep. And he didn't like his brother. I didn't like his brother, right? Enemy of my enemy is my friend. And I bought him a truck. Boys love that. Boys love that shit, right? Keep it in your name, though. Just follow me for more relationship advice. Anyway, this poor kid. I talked him into marrying me. Right? Led Zeppelin fills the chapel. So we light the unity candle. I'm under this veil. I'm sweating, because I'd been so drunk. Bud Ice had come out like that week, and I drank a case, the night before the wedding. And something's wrong when the groom-to-be says, hey, honey, can you not drink before the wedding? Like, can you wait till after? It's an afternoon wedding, too. It's not late, I'll be drunk by 4, but he had to say that to me. He had to specifically say, please don't drink before the wedding. But I show up to the wedding with the worst hangover. I'm sweating, I'm sick. And Led Zeppelin's playing, and we're standing there. It looked like he had long hair. I'm in this gown. We looked like a Wiccan ceremony. Joyful time. I look at him through this veil, and I say to him, whew, I need a drink. And he said, I know. Yeah, but neither one of us really knew. There was no way to tell what alcoholism was going to do. To me, to him, to those kids. There's no way to predict that, right? So, a year later, he's like, I'm leaving. That was short-lived, too. He's like, I'm out of here. You're crazy. You're crazy. What I'd heard before. And I called my dad, right? So people have been saying, Amy, there's something wrong with the way you drink, right? Since I was 15. My mom had me institutionalized when I was 15. It was the first time I went in. My mom had me put in somewhere, right, for out-of-control teenagers, right? And all my life, people, girlfriends, relationships, things I valued. I wouldn't tell you I valued them, but I valued them, right? And they're dissolving and being destroyed right in front of me, right? And they're saying it's your drinking. And it's the way you act when you drink. We don't want to be around you, But I'll get rid of you before I get rid of booze. And that's what I kept doing. But this time, that frothy emotional appeal, right? I'm going to lose my marriage. I'm going to lose the kids. I'm going to lose the 3-bedroom ranch with the creek in the back, right? Everything looks like it's supposed to, and I'm still not happy. So this is the first time I think maybe you're the problem, Amy. It's the first time I even had an inkling that maybe it's you. So I called my daddy, and I was like, Dad, I think I got what you got. He said, come on over. My dad 12-stepped me. He told me about him, and he told me about you. My idea of AA, I thought that's where, drunks retired. I was only 25. I'm way too young for retirement, but I just felt like, you drink and you go, and then when you retire, you go to AA and you talk about when you weren't retired, you drink coffee. Thought it was a great thing for Dad. But he told me about you. And I knew something had changed because my dad had the same phone number since he got sober. Think about it. It's a tell. Whenever I'm sponsoring women, and I've got 6 numbers in there for them, I'm like, when you get a sobriety date, let me have your number then. And tell them, why don't you just call me? I'm not even going to try to call you back. My dad had the same, and my dad took me to Alcoholics Anonymous. And again, in this serendipity kind of way, I went to my meeting with my dad at the ice house, and I'm sitting there, and in comes this woman, and she's pretty, and she smells good, and she's young, my age, and she's like, hey, nice to meet you, and we had landlines back then. I gave her my number. She gave me hers. She was like, I'll pick you up tomorrow. We'll go to a meeting. I was like, that sounds great. That's awesome. That was Beth, right? The stoplights, that was Beth. And I was like, how cool that she was there and I was there. What a neat, that's crazy, Dad had already called Beth and said, hey, I'm bringing my daughter to the meeting. I want you to come, right? Ninjas. And Beth became my sponsor. And like so many of us, Beth lived these steps. She lived this. If you go to, the the black 24-hour a day book from Hazelton? You know what I'm talking about? If you went to Beth Montgomery's house right now and you walked in and went to her, said, can I use the bathroom that's sitting in the windowsill? Because old age used to check each other. You keep that in there and like you go in and see what page they were on. So you knew if they were, reading the meditation. It's still there. These are ninjas, right? And they demonstrated this program through their words and their actions every day. And I got to spend 3 years, because that's all the time I stayed with you guys, right? For that 3 years. 95 to 98. I think that was it, Mo. Right about then, about 95, 97. And me and my dad, and the ice house was where everybody, if you were sober in Louisville, Kentucky, you came through the ice house. And I stand on the shoulders of giants. And these men and women showed me how to, they accepted me and they loved me and they laughed with me and they showed me how to be sober one day at a time. And they did service. Oh my God, the amount of service was ridiculous. 12-step calls, prisons and institutions, running them to the homeless shelters, taking meetings in. It was a big thing, man, right? Nobody said, they were still reading how it works. Here are the steps we took. They were still reading that. It wasn't a secret. But they never opened this book. I did the steps on the wall. Yeah, I'm powerless. I mean, that's why my husband was going to leave me. That's why, the kids now, things are better, right? Yeah, I'm coming to believe, okay. I never even knew the third step prayer. I didn't know there was a third step prayer that you memorized, right? And so I'm in AA, but it was just a different thing. It was just a different time. And had I stayed in AA, I would have got here. My friend Wanda from Louisville was 10 years sober before she worked the steps, because that's when Joe and Charlie put out those tapes. Right? And she'll tell you, her whole sobriety changed. The whole world opened up. Like she was on fire. But she was 10 years sober before that was the deal. Like fellowship is an amazing thing. Ralph just told you that he wrote on fellowship for 2 or 3 years. It's incredible, right? But here's what happens when you have fellowship sobriety. We bought a bigger house. We moved further away. We had 2 more kids. The life that AA gave me got real busy. And I got real busy. Now I can't be with you like I need to be with you, because my sobriety is linked to us hanging out. The meeting before the meeting, the meeting after the meeting. Right? But I'm not doing a lot of that. I fade out of Alcoholics Anonymous, and we've all seen it happen, right? I told my home group, guys, I'm going to leave AA. But I have a plan. I like God. God made weed. Contingent upon my spiritual maintenance. See where I'm going with this? I'm going to be like the Native American Indians. I'm going to use marijuana ceremoniously to connect me to Sister Wind and Mother Sun. I built a fire pit and I bought a guitar. I planted 4 70-foot rows of bush beans so I could can. I'm going to be a hippie. You see what I'm doing here? This is my plan. And that way I'll be nonviolent, right? I'm not going to drink. I mean, obviously I can't drink, right? And that's what I'm going to do. And I leave AA, and this is my plan. It's what I'm going to do. But when I smoke the devil's lettuce, I often get thirsty. And I'm watching others drink with impunity. So here's my next idea. Okay, we're just going to revisit the original plan. Not a lot of major changes, just some modifications. Right? Because I got to sell this to my husband, who's like, you can't drink. I'm like, well, hold on. I'm not saying I'm going to drink. I'm saying, like, what about, beer? That's not even really a drink, is it? And hear me out, on Fridays, just Fridays, and only at home. We won't even go out, just right here, controlled environment, beer on Friday. And he, boys, he's like, okay. Because he doesn't understand alcoholism any more than I do. We think this is a brilliant idea, right? And it goes so well that, hear me out. That went well. What about Saturdays? Not every Saturday. Just, a few, whatever. We're watching football. Something, what about that? I know we were talking about beer. And beer's good. I like beer, but I get a little bloated. And, what if, now hear me out, a little bit of whiskey, but not straight. We're not going to drink whiskey straight. That would be silly. It's ridiculous. You see what's happening? Progression, right? I'm in the grips of alcoholism again, and I don't know it. By the time I'm 36, he and I are divorced. We're divorced, right? Alcoholism. Now remember, when I came to you in 1995, I could finally see that alcohol was my problem, right? Or I believed alcohol was my problem, finally. All right, what I've learned since 2010 is alcohol is but a symptom of Amy's problems. So I thought, you take away the alcohol, I'm good. Now we take road trips, we go to meetings, we pick up drunks, we drink coffee. Everything's lovely. Not if you got what I got. So this goes on. I want to tell you, things got real dark. I spent 4 years on the streets. I was homeless. I walked away from that marriage and those 4 children. And I'm not proud of that. I dropped my 2 youngest kids off at school and told them I would be there back at 3, and it was like 2 months before my family heard from me that time. And I think about my little Zach and my little sweet Grace. When your mom coming, and I'm not coming, and finally they call the grandparents and say nobody picked up Zach and Grace. And I can think about the worry that must have caused. Where is she? Why didn't she pick up the kids? She always picks up the kids, And the guilt and the shame and the remorse. Because what do you say? What do you say? And so I just stayed gone. Because I didn't know how to make that phone call. I didn't know how to go back. And when you're just plagued with guilt and shame and remorse, I'll tell you what happens. It demands a drink. Right? Blotting out the intolerable consciousness of my existence. It demands a drink. See, if I don't make this be quiet, suicide. Right? I'm at the jumping off point. I'm 37 years old and I shake for a drink. And I remember the first time that happened, and I thought back to 95 when the drunks would come in the ice house, and Doug Schmidt, the guy that opened the ice house, he would give them half a cup of coffee, old ninjas, so they didn't spill it on the guy next to him. And I thought about that. And I thought, but they were old. I was 37, but they were probably 37, but to my mind, I'm like, why, And so this is where I'm at. So let me tell you what I did. In 2007, I finally decide I'm going to go back to AA, right? And so I do. And I did it just like I did it in 1995. I came in, I drank your coffee, we held hands, we said a prayer, and then I would come back the next night at 8 o'clock or 7:30. I'm always early to the meeting because, like I said, I like you guys, right? But the problem this time is when they would tell me, don't drink between the meetings. See, I can't do that anymore. I've lost the ability to control my drinking. I am literally, what our book, what step 1 is. See, step 1 invites me, and Teresa F. says that, and I love that. Step 1 is an invitation. It's an invitation for you to examine your relationship with alcohol. Right? Are you powerless? Right? The doctor's opinion says it explains things for which we could not otherwise account. Why would I miss my daughter's baby shower? Why wouldn't I pick up my kids from school? It explains things for which I could not otherwise account. And it talks about the desperation. I did that for 2 years, in and out of alcohol, or 3 years, actually, 2007 to 2010. I kept coming to your meetings. I kept drinking your coffee. I kept holding your hand. I kept saying the prayer. And I couldn't get sober. I had to be physically removed, and the book talks about that. For some alcoholics are particularly jittery. We advise for hospitalization, right? I went to a non-medical detox. But let me tell you something about the love of AA, the love of people who are suffering together. It was a homeless shelter, and they had about 16 beds, and they let us homeless women come in, and they'd check your blood pressure every now and then, and if you seized too long, they would call an ambulance. But, people were watching you, and you had a place to lay down, and they would feed you and stuff. But when the woman next to you vomited, if you were well enough, you helped her clean it up. When the heroin addict would come in aching and crying and so sick, we would run a hot bath and put her in it. And we would get her out, and we would dry her off, and we would dress her, and we comforted one another like passengers on the great ocean liner, right? And so you see this love, right, where women are taking care of women. Listen, on the streets, we ain't taking care of each other, right? You're after the same thing I'm after, and your competition. And I tell you what, I ran with a girl for about 3 weeks, and one night she was found in an alley with her ear cut ear to ear. Her throat cut, ear to ear, right? I think for a millisecond, I think she said she had kids once. And the next thing I thought was, I know who her tricks are. I know who her Johns were. I'm going after her money, right? I became dangerously antisocial. I had this one thing I needed, and if you got between me and the thing I needed, you were in a real bad place. I went into the store one morning. I stayed in this one little neighborhood, right? So they kind of knew I'm the drunk hooker, right? I'm like 50 pounds underweight. Business was not really good. I'm just saying. Mostly because people don't like a mean prostitute. And by this time, I'm like, fuck yeah. Hate me, hate you. Business is bad. Anyway, I walk into the store, right? And you can bum $1. You can bum $1, right? And then this is what my life is, right? Or you can bum some change. And they would sell these 22-ounce beers, and they were $1.99. Right? And so I go in, I bum my $1 in the gas station parking lot, and I go in, and I put my $1, my friend Noah, and he's my friend because he owned the store, right? And Noah's like, Amy, right? Because I'm in this neighborhood, and so they know me in this neighborhood, and he's like, baby, that's $1.10. I'm like, what? He's like, it's $1.10. The prices went up. I'm like, look. That's the same beer that was there when I went to bed last night. I'm not giving you an extra 10 cents. This is robbery. You come to this country and you rob us, Poor Noah. I'm insane, Anyway, I kicked over the chip display, and I took my beer, and I ran off, and he knows who I am. Like, this is where I live, taking my beer. Like an old sea hag, I don't know, crazy. Over 10 cents. But when you're where I was, 10 cents might as well have been 10 million. Because I ain't got it. And what I might have to do to get it, I ain't willing to do. Not yet. It's too early. And I need this beer. That's what I brought to you. Finally, March 6, 2010, my daddy picked me up off the street corner, literally. And he drove me to the women's healing place, the homeless shelter. I'd been there a couple times before, and they were like, hey, come on in. It's a long-term program. It's 6 to 9 months. You can't have a phone. You can't have a job. You can't have a car. All you do while you're here is, program and go to meetings. And Recovery Dynamics had come out of Arkansas. They were using that. And, everything's free. You don't have to have insurance. The homeless, it's all nonprofit. Just bring you, and we'll help you with that. And da-da-da-da. And I was like, now, what do you mean I can't have a phone or a car or a job for like 6 to 9 months. And they were like, yes, ma'am, that's right. And I'm like, well, this won't work. I did not have a phone, a car, or a job. I don't know how your disease talks to me, but mine makes promises, right? You're going to get that. Just calm down. You're going to have that. It's not going to take you 9 months to get a car, a phone, and a job. I mean, you can't stay here. It's way too. They're holding you back. That's what they're doing. Jesus. We're so delusional. I'm talking about goofy. I'm talking about this is what I brought you guys. Right? I wonder why I need a sponsor so bad. Finally, March 6, 2010, and I want to say this. Something happened. I did not pick my sobriety date. I didn't pick it. It was a Saturday. Hookers like me don't get sober on Saturday. The 6th, I don't know. I mean, I know you guys don't know this, but there is a population that receives checks on the 1st of the month and the 6th. Checks are hot. Like, that's not when I'm going to get sober. I'm going to get sober later. I'm going to get sober come Monday. Come Monday, I'm going to get sober, never on a Saturday. But something happened. That's where grace walked. And it was under God's grace that I walked into that detox center on March 6, 2010. The miracle began to happen. Right? I stayed. And that's what we ask you to do when you come to Alcoholics Anonymous. Stay. You bring you, and we'll help you with that. And stay. So, I admit I'm powerless over alcohol, and my life is unmanageable. I'm 39 years old, and I'm living in a homeless shelter for women. Unmanageable. Check. Like, I never stood up on career day, like, well, I'm hoping if I play my cards right. Get the right education, go to the right schools. By the time I'm 39, I'll be staying in a homeless shelter. Wasn't on the agenda. The person who was managing my life had to be fired. You know? And so the healing place began to manage my life. Because they had rules, and they told me what to do, and where to sleep, and when to eat, and what to read, and what to fill out. And the healing place became my higher power. And then the healing place would send me to you, right? We can go to meetings. I had a sheet. Get your sheet signed. Yeah, I'm one of those. Thank you for signing my sheet. Thanks for looking up and smiling and saying we're glad you're here. And keep coming back. Thank you for clapping every time I got a white chip. I really appreciated that. You know, you didn't say, Amy, sit down. None for you. Use the one you had last week. Yeah. You're like, you just keep coming back, honey. Thanks. Hold it up. My white chip. Yeah. Idiot. Never could get a 30-day, but man, I had a lot of those surrender chips. But March 6, 2010, because you never shook your finger at me, because you showed me unconditional love, because you told me to keep coming back, because you clapped every time I got a chip, I could keep coming back. Because with you, I'm not in trouble. And this little girl's been in trouble a long time. I'm safe with you. The love of Alcoholics Anonymous. I started doing that. So my sponsor, we sit down to do step 1. I remember the first thing they did at the Women's Healing Place was put us in the book. They put a book in our hand. They said, this book's going to save your life. It's the instruction manual you've been looking for all your life. Right? Because we thought everybody else got the instruction. God had one printed for us. He does have a special love for alcoholics, right? And I got into that book, and I remember I would open it up to there's a solution, and all of a sudden tears were falling from my face. The title. Wait a minute, what? You have a solution for a wretch like me. And the words jumped off the pages. And they say you start to recover when the big book moves from here to here. See, they were telling my story. Just like, what do you mean in 1939 these bastards wrote a book about me? How'd they know? It's so crazy, right? If you're struggling with step one, right? Because a lot of times I respond, sometimes the book is a lot for people, like Ralph was saying, you know? Some of us don't read well. Some of us read and we don't comprehend well, right? And this is on tape, and sometimes we need somebody to sit down and break it down to us. Line by line. If you're new, I still do this to this. You know, I'm 11 years sober. I'm doing the same things to stay sober as I did when I got sober. I've only added. I've not taken anything away. But one of the things I do is I stay in a big book study or a step workshop. I stay in them. And when I was new, it was freaking manna. You know, I'm the girl that would show up with the book, Big Book Dictionary, my 12 and 12, pens of assorted colors, and a spiral notebook. I went to AA college. Like, I'm studying this stuff, right? And what that did, though, in the first few years is now you've got this, you know, aggressive, goofy street hooker with some knowledge. You want to live or you want to die? What's your choice to be? Yeah. My homegirl, Timmy, would tell him, the new girls, he would be like, she'll 12 stomp you, sweetheart. Let's give her some time. Like Ralph, right? Let's give her some time. You're doing great, honey. Good job, Amy. You know, they just cheer me on. Take the new girl over, give her to somebody with some sense, you know. You let me stay. You let me be on fire. If you're struggling with step one, if you're here tonight and you're like, Bill, 1939, Walter Hagen. Who the hell is Walter Hagen? Right? He was a golfer. He still makes clothes. You can get them at Dick's Sporting Goods. Very comfortable stuff. Very comfortable stuff. But anyway, right? I didn't know. There's a particular paragraph on chapter 6 that my sponsor took me to, and I think speaks so much to alcoholism and where it takes us and what it does. And it doesn't matter if you were on the streets with like me or you were laying up in a penthouse suite, because alcoholism doesn't care. It's not a financial condition. It's a spiritual condition. And Bill writes, the remorse, horror, and hopelessness of the next morning are unforgettable. She said, you know what that means? I said, man, yeah. He says, the courage to do battle was not there. Here's one. My brain raced uncontrollably. Ideas, thoughts. An all-night joint supplied what I needed, right? And this is where I had to be all the time. So 2 bottles and oblivion. Step 1. Right? There's so much in that book. It invites us to examine our relationship with alcohol. Do you drink when you don't want to drink? Do you drink more than you meant to drink? Do you obsess about drinking? Timmy always says, I was thinking about drinking, I was drinking, or I was thinking about me. Right? Now, do I have the obsessive mind of an alcoholic? When I drink, do I have any say over when I'm going to stop, what's going to happen, or where I'm going to land? No. Is my life unmanageable? Yep. Came to believe. I believed you believed. I believed you believed. That's all I could do. I came to believe that you believed, because women and men would get behind this podium, and I'm like, I think she really believes that. Very enthusiastic. Right? And then I began to believe that maybe, just maybe, if I did what you did, maybe it would work for me too. And I had nowhere else to go. This was my last shot, and I went foot to pavement. I'm all the way in. I walked up to Timmy one time, and I was like, look, old man, I'm all in on this deal, so you better, not be lying to me. We're not lying to you, Amy. Okay. All right, well, and where am I going next? I just got busy, and that's that step one and that's step two. And I'm going to let the other speakers, and I know they're going to do it beautifully because what a lineup. I sat at dinner last night with this. How did a wretch like me end up with fine people like you? Man, only in Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're new, this is what I held on to in the beginning. This book is full of promises. Full of promises. They're not lying to you. They're not lying to you. It's the greatest show on earth. But this is the one that kept me when I laid in that homeless shelter at night, still not talking to my children, not working, no car, no phone. Not sure what was going to happen. And on page 100 it says, both you and the new man must walk day by day on the path of spiritual progress. If you persist, remarkable things will happen. I can tell you that in the past 11 years, remarkable things have happened. Remarkable things have happened. Like, freaking remarkable. Like, I have an office. I walk into my office every morning, I'm like, well, ain't this something? That's remarkable. I want to thank everybody that spoke before me, and I want to thank you guys. You're in for such a fabulous treat this weekend. We, like Ralph said, some of the greatest communicators and some of the most humble and honest men and women our program has to offer is here for you. And you thank Jimmy for that. Thank you, Jimmy, and the committee for putting this together. Thank you for letting old hooker from Kentucky come be a part of it. It means more than you'll ever know. And make sure you guys get your tapes from my good friend Lee. I love y'all.